Hello everybody, I'm Phil Liggett, joined of course by Paul Showing. Welcome to what is the third and final Grand Tour of the 2006 season. The Vuelta a España, a ride of just over 2,000 miles, 21 stages, 21 teams and a total of 189 Pro Tour riders. We're down in the far south for the start. It's a team time trial. This is Malaga, waiting to welcome the Tour as it starts on its journey far north, right up to the northern coast of Spain, and then gradually working back south before returning to the centre and the grand finish. Well, an unusual way to start a Tour, perhaps, a team time trial, something we're missing from the Tour de France these past years, and it won't even be in the route for next year's race either. But for us, it's a chance for the teams to show themselves, and it's not a prologue, this is the first stage, Paul.
First stage, 7.3 kilometres, completely flat. The riders moving away from their local football stadium here in Malaga, basically going across the Maritime Museum, down past the harbour to finish at the end very fast. And a lot of teams, I think, will try and get a very fast time early on, especially the teams of the sprinters, Crédit Agricole, teams like Milram, and of course this team, T-Mobile, are looking to try and knock Crédit Agricole off the top of the leaderboard.
Well, T-Mobile still a little bit headless, of course, without Jan Ullrich after that controversial non-entry into the Tour de France, along with Ivan Basso and others. But Milram still to ride, while Mobile here getting the better of the best time, pushing Crédit Agricole down to second with a 7 minutes 47.3. That's just on a minute a kilometre. Pretty good riding.
Well, actually, at half distance, Team Milram have put in a fairly fine performance. Good to see Alessandro Petacchi back and riding again. He had a very nasty accident in the Giro d'Italia where he broke his kneecap into about 7 pieces. It's taken him a long time to get back to competition, Phil.
It's a big test now for Petacchi. Really, he's in this to get ready for next year. I think he's not going to be expected to be mixing too much in the sprints, but we'll see. As you'll find out, this turns out to be a very good bike race this year in Spain. This is the month of September. Good time to be in the far south, lovely climate, and of course a big holiday destination here in Malaga. Looking down from the roof again, this looks like it's Valverde's team down there.
Yeah, Case d'Epargne. Somebody's gone down as well. In fact, it was Gerolsteiner just at the back of the group. One of the riders going round that corner there, he just lost it. The problem with these aerodynamic machines, Phil, is they are very rigid. They're designed to go quickly through the air, but certainly not to go very well around the corners.
Well, it's one of the Tour riders. I'm not too sure who it is, to be absolutely honest. Oh, indeed, this is Rebellin. Yes, Rebellin himself who went down.
Yes, David Rebellin. Just look at the back here. You can see as he goes around the corner, he just seems to lose it, and that's because of the fact I think his wheel was just a little bit too rigid, a little bit too close to the rider in front of him. He's down, and that is going to cost him time. And he's a man who, in the first week of this race, was probably thinking about a crack at the jersey.
Well, it's a golden jersey in this race, not a yellow jersey. This is Team Milram. They've pulled out something rather special here because they're pushing what is now T-Mobile's time at 7:47, and they get the better of it on the line by just 3 seconds. That's a good result.
It's a very good result, and you saw who led them home as well. It was Eric Zabel. Not surprising, Phil, that he got himself the sprint. A little bit further down the field, this is Team Discovery, and just on the front there, number 71, the man who they think is going to lead the team here, that's Michael Barry. And it's the first rider across the line from the team who has the fastest time who will wear the first golden jersey.
Good riding here by Discovery Channel. We expect to see Tommy Danielson in the thick of the race today, if he can get himself up there. Remember, if they get the best time, it's the rider at the head of the team who will pull on the first leader's jersey. Time, as usual, taken on the fifth man.
Yep, the fifth man. They have to have 5 riders together, and we're looking a little bit further back as we move away. The stadium here is completely full now. This is a Team Astana. Started off the year as Liberty Seguros, then changed to Liberty, just to the World team. Now it's Astana, which is a representation of the capital of Kazakhstan, and this is the team, of course, of Alexander Vinokurov, and there he is in 3rd position.
Well, it's a good team, this, and of course they are really stinging after being left out of the Tour de France. It was almost a conspiracy, I think. In the end, they didn't have enough riders to qualify for the entry when they sent half of the team home under the suspicion of doping, but it must be said that none of those riders has since been charged with an offence, and so now they're back here with a vengeance. This is a situation at the moment. Milram, 7 minutes 44. T-Mobile, Sonia Duval, and David Miller on that team riding his big Grand Tour here, a second time this summer. He rode the Tour de France as well.
Crédit Agricole, the early leaders, going down a little bit further. Team Quickstep, that's the team of Paolo Bettini, who I expect to be aggressive in the early part, now coming up to the line. This is going to be a very good time for Discovery Channel. They're looking to beat Team Milram, but in fact they're not going to do it. Second best time for them, 7 minutes and 45 seconds.
They might be a little bit disappointed though, you know, losing out to Milram. Not the team they'd expect to lose a team time trial to, but there they are in second place. Now, this is Valverde's team, and he's on the far left. Leader, don't forget, of the Pro Tour in the white.
In the white jersey, there he is. This man, I think, is going to be a major favourite for the Vuelta a España this year. He was very sad to crash out of the Tour de France. I think it was on the third stage on the road up to Valkenburg in Holland. He went down and broke his collarbone. He's wearing, Phil, your favourite number there, number 51.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, it was in Verviers where he went down, I think it was, Paul, wasn't he? He was just in Belgium racing into Holland, and that took really knocked the stuffing out of him, broken collarbone, as you say. He's back and looking for a good ride in his home country. Here's the ride of Astana, and they're coming up to the line now because they're using their strong men here. Kashikin trying to bring them up towards the line as well. Now, whoever crosses the line first, if it's best time, could be the first lead. Look at the face on Alexander Vinokourov. Boy, has that man arrived with a vengeance here now as he tries to pull this team to the line.
Well, he's a class act, Alexander Vinokourov. He's going to lead the team up, and look at the time. Actually, not all that good, Phil. Fourth time for them, 7 minutes and 48 seconds as we wait for this team. Now, this is a team that should put in a good performance. There you can just see Team CSC. This has been a great Tour team that was built up to support Ivan Basso at the Tour de France, and unfortunately for them, they ended up being a headless team because he was pulled out within 24 hours of the start.
Yes, and that, of course, still very much in the waiting to know what's going to happen situation. But here is Valverde's Illes Baleares, or the Castepon team, as we call it these days. And this is going to be a great ride. I think this might be the team to take Milram off the top of the board here. 7:44, still the best time, but they're going to make mincemeat of that as they swing, and it looks as though they're bringing home the whole team. And in there, counting the white jersey of the Pro Tour leader Valverde, just making sure, a little look over the shoulder, see everybody's still together. They know it's good now because they can see the clock. This is a big sprint to the line now. 7:44, they'll be inside that. This will be a new best time. One or two riders just losing the gap, but it's the fifth man, and they're holding five together, and just about holding five together on the line. Best time, 7:43.2. It's not over yet. CSC still to come.
Well, this is an amazing team over the years. It's the team that's taken Pedro Delgado and Miguel Indurain to victory in Tours of France and Spain. And here is Team CSC. They are looking like a good, well-drilled squad. And look at that time, 7:10. The time to beat is 7:43. Phil, I think they're going to go inside of that.
Well, this might be a little bit of a surprise. Now, if it is to be the best time, it's the first man over the line who will pull on the leader's jersey here. Now, Stuart O'Grady, after his injuries all season, is coming good, and that's O'Grady puffing and blowing dead centre now. He knows they're pushing the best time here as they look at each other again, packing well. Fifth man to finish, but that's where the clock stops. Looks like Sastra's got it first over the line.
They've pushed Carlos Sastre to the front, and if I'm not mistaken, Phil, I think it's not far away from Carlos Sastre's birthday. So that is the best time for Team CSC, and that is a pretty impressive performance by then. 7 seconds faster than Case d'Epargne Lille Baleares. Team Milram not too far off the mark, 8 seconds adrift, and Team Discovery Channel, as you say, probably a little bit disappointed, losing 9 seconds.
Well, that's a great ride by Team CSC, and that means Sastre will be the first leader. It was him that crossed the line in first place. They get the team as well, and here they all are. Well, even without their top man Ivan Basso, you can't keep a great squad out of the picture. There's confirmation. Sastre, they're all CSC, of course, at the top of the leaderboard at this stage. But Sastre pulls on the golden jersey as the first leader of the Vuelta a España 2006. The second best team, changing colours, is Jose Vicente Garcia Acosta, our lone brake expert, who was best of them. Onward we go then, second stage, second day. The riders waving farewell to Malaga now as our journey north starts, and this is a ride of just over 100 miles really. 2 little ripples on the way, third category, a chance to get our first leader in the King of the Mountains. And then, Paul, it's all down to what we expect will be a bunch sprint.
Well, it should be a little bit difficult to start off, the riders moving away from the coast of the Mediterranean at Malaga, but then once they get inland, Phil, it's a fairly flat plateau.
Well, as expected, we're now in Cordoba here, and the field has been together for much of the day, and 189 riders here. Now, can Alessandro Patacchi show us he is back, or will Eric Zabel show us he's a little bit more than still just a lead-out man as we race for the line here?
Well, I think over the first few days, Alessandro Patacchi feels going to try and help out Eric Zabel, because let's not forget, Patacchi's trying to get himself back into form. Maybe we'll see him starting to sprint in the second week here of the Vuelta. We're in high speeds here, almost 55 25 kilometres an hour coming into town. All of the sprinters want to be right up at the front end of the main field. I'm trying to see which team is getting themselves organised, and it looks to me as if somebody has got themselves in a big long line on the front. So you can see the main sprinters starting to form that little gaggle of riders behind. That's the place you really want to be at 2 kilometres to go, waiting for somebody to open up the gap. This is a problem here for Sastre.
I think he's got a flat tyre. He's trying to get to the right of the road.
Well, Phil, he's inside the 3 kilometre to go point, so he's not going to lose any time. He has got himself a flat tyre. He will be given the same time as the main field, but that's a bit of bad luck for the golden jersey.
Well, he'll sweat now because it really is all down to the order of finish on the line, and the small time bonuses could still rob him of that leader's jersey, even though he will get the same time as the peloton. The new rule now is if you have a problem in the last 3 kilometres of a stage race, you do get the time of the group you are with, and he was with the leaders, of course, and he's away, and he doesn't have to race home now because he'll be given that time. And it's Milram, Paul, who's making the pace here.
Will Milram have got themselves lined up on the front here in the pale blue jerseys. Little flick of the wrist, you can see there communication between these riders. That is Eric Zabel in 4th position. Queuing up behind him is Thor Hushovd. Stuart O'Grady's not fired back either there from Team CSC. O'Grady with the ride of Team CSC yesterday, Phil, if he can get himself a time bonus, if we go inside the 1 kilometre to go banner, O'Grady could be looking at the golden jersey of leadership, and he's a very canny bike rider.
He's having a great finish to the season, that's for sure. Stuart O'Grady for CSC. A little bit of luck is all he needs to land a big win. He'll be looking for this now. Robbie McEwen's riding as well, by the way, and as usual at this stage of the sprint, I can't see him down there.
You never see Robbie McEwen until the final moment when he really needs to come up to the front, but he will be in there. He'll be looking to try and find a way through the absolute chaos. There's Paolo Bettini just over to the right-hand side as well.
And here's the final lead out now to see if Pataki can launch himself too. Bettini's in the mix. He's wearing the champion of Italy's jersey too, and McEwen is there. The familiar bobbing figure. Oh, a little bit of an argy-bargy there between teammates. Confusion. McEwen's got round a little bit late now as they race towards the line, but Hushovd is looking extremely strong here, who took McEwen in the race for the green jersey in the Tour de France, and Bettini has taken it on the line. Hushovd right up behind him, and I think McEwen 4th or 5th.
Well, you know, Bettini is an unbelievable bike rider, Phil. He's not really a bunch sprinter, but he's a clever rider, never gives up, always looking for the win. He's got the champion of Italy's jersey on there, the man who is reigning Olympic champion, and that was a great win for him. Look at this. At about 500 metres to go, you can't even see Paolo Bettini. That's Thor Hushovd in the middle in the green shorts. Robbie McEwen starts but seems to fade. Then all of a sudden, where is Paolo Bettini? Nowhere to be seen. And he comes up through the middle of the bunch. Then all of a sudden, there's the explosion.
And a 2-arm salute, and you know, Hushovd's 2nd place there because of the small time bonus out on the course as well. He might have shaved the golden jersey here. What a season he's having.
Well, he's having a great season, Thor Hushovd. He's a big battler. We saw him in the Tour de France have a dramatic crash in the early stages when in fact he ripped his arm on one of the publicity banners at the side of the road. He lunges there, and I think, Phil, you could be right, because looking at the time bonus situation, I think Thor Hushovd will be the new leader tonight, but Paolo Bettini is the winner of the stage.
Yes, he's got a win in the Vuelta at last, and Luca Paolini was the 3rd place sprinter there for Liquigas. Uras Mern also in the sprint, looking right down. All these boys are pretty cool sprinters. Jean-Patrick Nazon, a former stage winner of the Tour de France, in Paris as well. Zabel in 10th as he was dropping out a little bit. There's the man they call the Cricket. And Jiminy Cricket has scored again. Want me to put the hat on? He says, certainly, why not?
Por favor, Paolo Bettini. What a great bike rider this man is. And he can win from any situation, from a breakaway, from a bunch sprint. And in fact, I almost discounted him, Phil, because he's up into 2nd place overall, just 2 seconds adrift from Thor Hushovd.
Well, Paolo Bettini is in the mix, but Thor Hushovd, the Norwegian, has got the race lead in the Tour of Spain. I think that's a first for Norway as well. He's going to be amongst the top award winners of Cyclist of the Year in Norway for sure. All smiles. Credit Agricole has got a good one here in their big tour. The God of Thunder, who is a very nice guy and full of smiles. Onwards we go. So to stage number 3 now, the longest so far, 220 kilometres. We're moving away from the far south, generally out towards the western coast of Spain now, as they continue their ride up the northern part. Well, it's not really the coastline now. We're heading up towards the edge and near Portugal.
Well, just circumnavigating Portugal, the riders will really get their first taste of the mountains when they get right up to the top western part of the peninsula of Spain, and that's when it's going to start to get a little bit grippy. This kind of stage, again, should really fold out for the sprinters.
Yeah, early hills, keep it all together, and let's get down to the build-up for the bunch sprint. Look at the clear blue skies, very, very hot indeed, unusually hot, one has to say, at the moment. The riders struggling a little bit in these hot weather days, and again, the sprinters enjoying their day, because later on this gets a really tough welter this year. Inside 3 kilometres, remember Thor Hushovd won a stage in last year's Tour of Spain as well, so he's got 2 in the bag now, is the race leader.
Well, Thor Hushovd will be very close to the front. He will try and consolidate, try and make sure he gets himself in the top 3 on the stage, Phil, to keep himself in that golden jersey for a few more days. But watch out, because Paolo Bettini's not far off, and he certainly would like to try and get that jersey if he can for a couple of days. A little bit of disorganisation at the front. Nobody's yet got the power to string out the main field.
Well, the golden jersey nowhere to be seen, but he's earned it by his sprint. Now they're going to see him pretty easily in this group at the moment, so he's going to be pretty easy to keep an eye on. I thought Robbie McEwen was rather balked by his own lead-out man yesterday, and perhaps he'll make a better job of it today, because he only lost by a few inches really in the sprint.
Yeah, Robbie McEwen, I think, using the Vuelta a España here, Phil, to tune his legs for the upcoming World Championships. A lot of riders using this tour as preparation as we go inside 2 kilometres. That was almost a 60-kilometre-an-hour kilometre run off there. On the left-hand side, you can see Team Quick-Step trying to get themselves organised. They're trying to get their man Paolo Bettini to the front. I don't think Bettini likes to sprint from a situation like this. I think he's more at ease, picking his way through the main field, a little bit like Robbie McEwen.
Well, there's a lot of bumping and boring going on, but so far this has been a perfect approach to the line here, and the sprinters can sort themselves out nicely. Not really well organised at the front. There's 1 or 2 at the right. Here comes the Milram boys. Now, through on the left of the picture, it looks like Stuart O'Grady of CSC also beginning to get into the mix here. Little bit of bumping now, because Robert Forster of Gerolstein, look at them at each other down there. I think that's Ruggero Marzoli down there, who's also in the Lamprey colours.
Yeah, somebody's taking a flyer. And that's one of the riders from Saunier Duval. This is a very good moment to try and hit the sprinters. 1 kilometre to go, and in fact the main field have switched off at the front. They need to get themselves organised. If they don't, that man will go. And, you know, it looks a little bit like the tall, longerine figure of David Miller.
Well, he's got the terrific initial power, and in fact that motorbike was a little bit disorganised there. Miller came round it quick, but here he comes, and it looks as though it might well be. Well, this would be a big surprise if Miller was to hold them off towards the line, but if anybody can do it, David Miller can. Reminds me a little bit about Vyacheslav Yekimov in the Tour de France a few years ago, when he did survive to the line in Macon, but Miller's round there. Now that's a tricky old corner. That'll disturb the sprinters as well. They're not at all organised, totally preoccupied here, but they've got him. Miller swings off. Milram with Zabel has control.
Well, Stuart O'Grady's right up there. He's not too far off the mark, Stuart O'Grady. There's Robin McEwen trying to get the lead out as well, just waiting for the last moment to pounce.
Now, is that McEwen? I think, in fact, it was Fred Rodriguez who was leading out McEwen, because now McEwen's got the head of affairs here now. And a big battle here going on. The Lamprey team there, that's Napolitano, but it's not going to be. And you know what? David Miller's pacemaking has resulted in a win for his teammate, Francisco Jose Ventoso. And that, for the young man, is a great result.
Well, what happened there was that confused the lead-out train of Quick-Step and, of course, of Team Milram. And that little bit of confusion allowed Ventoso to pick his way through. Congratulations coming there from Thor Hushovd, who wasn't too far away either, so he should remain in the golden jersey this afternoon.
Let's take one look at that.
Ooh, look
again.
at that nasty hook.
That's Napolitano there. And then comes McEwen on the far right as Freddy Rodriguez goes. Look at the speed of the man that gets the win here. It's his first stage win in the Vuelta, Ventoso. And it just looks to me as though perhaps McEwen has come off the boil now after his great Tour de France.
Well, it's very difficult. Let's not forget Robbie McEwen starts racing in the month of January in Australia, and it's a very long season for him. I think he is just trying to stretch that season out, Phil, because he feels he's got a very good crack at the World Championships. But Ventoso here is certainly the man who got it. And, of course, Thor Hushovd beating all the other riders behind him in the overall classification should extend his lead in the Golden Race.
Absolutely right. And Ventoso's second win of the year there, only his 4th of his career, which began only 2 seasons ago. At 24 years of age, he's a man for the future for sure. Now he's got his first big major stage race victory, a stage in the Tour of Spain.
Well, this is Freddy Rodriguez, who was causing a little bit of a squirm there for Napolitano trying to come up. But you can just see Robin McEwen doesn't seem to have that explosive nature that he has at races like the Tour de France. And he actually sits up just a little bit before the line, where over on the right-hand side, that's where the battle was going for Ventoso. Nicely timed sprint by him.
O'Grady was there, though, and continues his high finishes. Let's have a look at the situation, and there's the stage result confirmed. Ventoso ahead of Hushovd, who hasn't got the win yet, but he's pushing them all the way. Another second place for him. O'Grady third, Zabel fourth, the grand old man sprinting as good as ever, and McEwen perhaps not quite so good then. Napolitano bumped and barged his way to sixth, and a little bit further down, Jean-Patrick Nazon just off the boil as well for AG2R, completing the top 10. Now we need to see the overall and see if Hushovd, well, he's kept his lead, and I would think he's nudged it a little bit further ahead. But there's the kisses all round for the 24-year-old. And so the Spaniard giving the Spanish people a great victory there. There's Hushovd, and he's gone out now to 11th second, and O'Grady, taking advantage of the bonuses, moves up. Ventoso moves up, and Bettini goes down into 4th place. All elementary at the moment, the favourites, and Carlos Sastre must be considered a favourite. He's sitting there in 9th place overall. A second day in the golden jersey then for the big Norwegian cyclist Thor Hushovd.
And a very popular man at home too. This man is certainly #1 pin-up back at home in Norway.
And the key on day 4, keep Portugal on your left and keep heading north as the rise again, enjoying hot sunshine here. And once more, the peloton is going to have to hand over control to the sprinters.
Absolutely ideal racing conditions here in the southern part of Spain as the riders head up towards the north, and the riders looking to use the Vuelta as training for the upcoming World Championships will be very happy with this. On the crest of the wave here now, Sonia Duval, I think, trying to get themselves another stage victory, and again this looks like David Miller doing a good job of work for the team.
Well, Miller's enjoying himself. Remember, he's been suspended for 2 years. He came back for the Tour de France. He rode particularly well, finished in the mid-50s in the Tour, but he got to the end, and now he's profiting by his second Grand Tour of the year. Really powerful the way he's led out there. He'll be looking for Ventoso again. Now we know that Ventoso is sprinting well.
Yes, David Miller, I think, will use this Vuelta a España to tune himself up for the time trial at the World Championships, which is what he said is his major goal for the end of the season. There's the organisation at the front end of the main field. There in the middle of it all is the golden jersey of Thor Hushovd, and this is what it looks like life at the back.
This is where you hang on and just wait to get to the finish, and you never know what the organisers have in store. These lovely wide boulevards, sometimes a nasty switchback, and they're all in trouble.
You have to ride at the front, you have to have nerves of steel to be a sprinter, and it looks to me, I'm trying to see the colour in these little long shadows of the end of the afternoon here. It's hard to see whether it's Milram or whether it's Quickstep, but I think it's actually a combination of the two here.
I think you're right, but it's Milram certainly on the front at the moment. They're trying to get a line going there. Now, we haven't seen too much of Pataki at all. He starts in the sprinting line, but he just hasn't got that final kick at the moment. It's a long fight back for Alessandro. That was a really bad crash he had mid-term.
Well, talking about Alessandro Pataki, this is him on the front, in fact, leading out Eric Zabel. Get that motorbike out of there, please. These men are taking incredible risks to keep upright, and that could cause a nasty crash. 1,000 metres to go now, and it looks, Phil, as if Alessandro Pataki is going to try and lead out Eric Zabel.
A reversal of form, but maybe he feels Zabel is the man to be led out today, and because he's not sprinting well himself. And there's a terrific rush on the inside, and I think that might be Gerolsteiner who's come through on the inside. They've got a good sprinter in Robert Forster this year.
Yeah, but not far off that Gerolsteiner train was Paolo Bettini, always in the thick of the action. Let's get themselves organised once more, as you say. These sweepers are very dangerous here. If you're a sprinter and you touch the brakes, you can slip back through the main field 15 or 20 positions, and you certainly don't want that.
Well, this is good lead out here. I think it's Marcel Strauss here who's trying to bring them up to the line, because, as I say, Forster and also Henrik Hausler can sprint. And there's the lineup for the finish now, and Gerolsteiner might be getting the win here as the holding position at the front. Forster is tucked in there, but is he going to get out of it now? The teammates have had to swing off, and is Pataki still working for Zabel? I think you might be right. Eric Zabel is locked into Pataki's wheel at this time, as the others are trying to hang on to the big sprinters, and the Lamprey boys are having a go as well. And there's there's Thor Hushovd in the golden jersey, looking for the elusive win to increase his overall lead. But Erik Zabel, I think, got it on the line, and if he did, that will be his 6th win of the year. And if memory serves me right, Paul, it'll be his first stage race victory since, I think, 2003.
Well, I tell you what, if you add up this man's second places, it's a certainly huge tally, about 15 second places this year. But it's great to see this man. We call him the old man of cycling, but he is one of my favourite sprinters. He's on form from the first race of the year right through to the end. That's an easy win for Erik Zabel. Looks across, and first hand of congratulations coming from Thor Hushovd. Look at this, the lunge for the line. What a great win, Phil, for Erik Zabel.
Erik Zabel, the man who holds the record for German stage wins in the Tour de France. It sits at 12, now adds another one in the Vuelta a España. And another second place there for Thor Hushovd. I think that's 3 in a row he's had now.
Yep, he's battling, but it's important for him, Phil, to keep placing in the top 3 because he'll still keep extending his advantage in the overall classification. But look at the face on Zabel here. Look at the arms buffed up as he really fights for that last few metres. He knows there's always the possibility somebody will come round. That lunge for the bike gives him an extra half a metre advantage over Thor Hushovd.
And I have to say, too, that Jean-Patrick Nazon, who's now got a 3rd place finish, is sprinting about as well. I've seen him since he won his stages of the Tour de France. Zabel gets the win, though, ahead again of Hushovd. And Stuart O'Grady, another top 4 finish for him, so he's going to stay right up in the overall classification, just missing out on the small-time bonus. McEwen, again, showing us his legs aren't firing yet. He had a good chance, and he's lost that one. Only 9th for him. But there's Erik. I make that his 201st victory in his career. He's 36 years of age. We're never quite sure because there are some races which don't count and some which do, but 201 I make it. He gets 2nd overall now behind Hushovd. Closed the gap because of bonuses. Bettini is up another place to 3rd. O'Grady is 4th, and Lars are back for CSC in 5th.
Well, the gap's starting to appear. 19 seconds back to Kurt Atle Arvesen. Nicky Sorensen still up there as well. Team CSC pretty much up in the top 10 because of that early first stage team time trial. But Thor Hushovd, Phil, he's enjoying his days in the golden jersey.
Well, that's his 3rd day in gold now, but the road's beginning to tilt upwards a little bit. Yes, stage 5, we discover the hills now in the interior of Spain as we swing inland. It's a nasty finish, this one, Paul.
It certainly is a very heavy day in store. 2 first category climbs very early on in the stage, a 2nd towards the end, and then an outside categorised climb as they climb up to the ski station of La Covertia. But look at this. This is the race that the riders know is going to start to sort out the overall classification. That final climb to the end, by the way, it's only about 6 kilometres, but it kicks up at a couple of points to 15%.
And we're picking up the action here now. We're actually on the climb of the Alto de Lagunilla. It's a 2nd category climb. It's the 3rd climb of the day. 16 riders are clear of the race, and they're splitting up a little bit. That was Jose Miguel Elias for the Relax team going over the top. The head of Crédit Agricole's Pietro Caucioli, and Paolini, the man that got the silver medal in the Athens Olympic Games, at last showing himself. He's also in this group. Now we'll get a time check when the chase comes up behind. This is the main field now.
Well, the pressure's been on. It's not surprising, really, to see Team CSC all over the front end of the main field because they are looking after that man in 2nd position. Their 3rd position a little bit further back, Carlos Sastre. He's the man they'd like to move up today. But also this man in the white jersey, leader of the Pro Tour, Alejandro Valverde. The short climb towards the end, Phil, could give him the advantage and a possible crack at leadership.
Well, the thing is now, this is the first test after all these very hot days of flat riding, apart from those 3rd category ripples early on the stages. These riders are going to feel pretty stiff today, I reckon, because it's so oppressive, the heat, as we race right into the interior, the barren hillside there. CSC clearly have ambition here, and I think their leader will be Carlos Sastre. We'll get a better idea today. The yellow jersey, or the golden jersey, we've seen him, and I'll tell you, he's not looking at all good. I think, in fact, he's lost contact.
Well, this is not really the course for Thor Hushovd. Hushovd, I'm not sure by now, will be in the autobus, or the group of the riders who will just try and survive and stay inside of the elimination time today, because this is a very tough course, especially, as you said, Phil, after a lot of flat stages using big gears, then all of a sudden you've got to use a completely different kind of pedalling action to get yourself over these mountains. But it is, for most of these guys today, the big first test.
We're watching the peloton here now. Elias has gone over the top, chased by Caucioli, Poligno. Vladimir Gusev has also gone over the top on Discovery Channel team. He's the new Russian rider for them. and David Arroyo's gone through. What's happened here?
I think Arroyo has just come back from that leading group because they've just picked up a rider from Case d'Epargne who was probably Arroyo in that leading group, and now he's decided to do a little bit of pacemaking for his man. Valverde moving up into second slot. Carlos Sastre there in about 4th or 5th place, and Crédit Agricole team car moving forward to have a quick chat with Pietro Cocchioli. But the one thing I love about the Tour of Spain, Phil, are these magnificent backdrops. It really is a very arid part of Europe, but it does create incredible vistas.
Well, I must say, you're normally right, Paul. I think that was Rodriguez on the same team because he was dropped on the climb from that leading group. They had 2 men up there. We'll find out as we get over the summit. There's the gap, 2 minutes 25 and counting for the leaders. Still a reasonable gap, but I would say now that the favourites for this year's Vuelta will feel they've got that breakaway under control because the last climb is an absolute brute, and 2.5 minutes I don't think will keep them ahead.
Well, no, they can lose a couple of minutes in the first 3 or 4 kilometres of the final climb of the day, and I think they'll start to get themselves organised because I know a lot of the big leaders, the men who are hoping to win this race overall today, would really like to test their legs and set out their foundations for victory. There you can see the group of the leader, Thor Hushovd, is around about, well, he's not too far back, he's 2:42 behind the peloton.
Which the leading group has now split, and I think we've seen already some riders come back into the peloton. So they'll wait now. This is the calm before the storm, before we head up to that final climb. And you can see already that bunch has thinned down pretty dramatically. There it is, and that should put a chill through some of the non-climbers.
It certainly does. You can see we're climbing up to 2,130 metres. The first 6 kilometres is fairly flat, but from kilometre 12 to kilometre 17, ouch.
And we're starting the climb now. There's the leaders to the left of our picture here as we're closing in, and in fact Arroyo and Paulinho are the 2 survivors of that 16-man breakaway, so they're going desperate now, trying to see if they can hold them off. I don't think they can. Well,
34 seconds is certainly not very much, and in fact they can see around these hairpin bends where the 2 leaders are, and their times here in the Vuelta a España brought to us by a GPS system, and that's the motorbikes of the front riders and the motorbike of the back riders. Both has a GPS on it, and it's the distance between the 2 which gives us a fairly good indication of the time gap between the riders. But looking down there, Phil, just around the corner, you can see the main field.
Yes, and so can the 2 leaders here now. And here's CSC, and Sastre is off to the right of our picture here. Now, this is the first big test for Sastre. He's carrying the weight of favourite for CSC. CSC, ever since winning that opening time trial...
This is Vinokourov. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised because this man is tipped as a possible winner of this race overall, and his first taste of the mountains is not a very good one at all. Let's not forget his season this year was wiped away at the start of the year because he spent his early months actually just preparing for one event, the Tour de France, and I think there was a little bit of a combination of the International Cycling Union to pull his team out because, strangely enough, although they didn't have enough riders to start because of that Operación Puerto thing, in fact afterwards 2 of the riders were completely admonished of any association with that, and it makes you wonder if the organisation just didn't want to kick them out because it was Manolo Sainz's team.
Well, all this is being done, all the damage by Team CSC. If they get the message in their little earphones that they've got Vinokourov in trouble, they'll continue to lift the pace. Valverde looks pretty cool back there, not under any pressure at all, 3rd wheel in the line. What I was saying before Vinokourov chose to get dropped was that CSC have been the team leaders of this race since winning the team time trial, and it looks as though they're trying to get control of this race. But you know, this year's Vuelta is a very tough route, and it all comes towards the end. Big test today, though. They'll start to whittle down the boys who are queuing up for that final golden jersey in Madrid. And Valverde is just moving nicely over the shoulder there, onto the shoulder of Sastre to say, I'm here. And this could be an attack coming from Valverde here.
Well, Valverde is a class actor. The gap now down to 25 seconds. Once he moves forward, he'll get a little bit of help from his teammate Arroyo, but this man is pure class, Phil. He is a great bike rider, and he's decided, as a true champion should, to take control himself.
Well, that is a fine piece of riding. I think that's Sanchez also up there from the Euskaltel Euskadi team. It is Samuel Sanchez, leader of the team now, also coming good mid-season. And this probably is Landaluz, is it?
Looking at the back
here. No, it's Mayo. Mayo now, and as at the back again, he's not having a happy time. I think he might be off this team by the end of the year.
Well, there's a lot of rumours at the moment that he might be switching teams, but he's got such a fragile head, this man. He's got an incredible talent. We've seen him win at the Alpe d'Huez, we've seen him win at the top of Mont Ventoux, but sometimes, Phil, he is the worst climber in the peloton.
Well, Arroyo still hanging in with Paulinho, but they've now been caught up by Mochenti Gomez here.
Pedro Delgado, former winner of the Tour de France, Danilo De Luca looking good. Pedro Delgado told me that Gomez Marchante is a very talented athlete and he tips him for a big rise to stardom in next season.
Well, where did De Luca come from? Because he accelerated too, and he throws in a few surprises. 5 kilometres still to climb. It's going to hurt. It gets steep again. And I think Valverde knows it here. He's turning the screw that little bit tighter. But De Luca is holding in there. There will be a new leader today because there's no doubt now that the golden jersey is looking for a new candidate because Hushovd has long since gone. This man, is he getting back? Is he recovering? Because he's hanging in there.
I think he's just getting into his rhythm. He's had a very difficult change of rhythm from the flat stages to the mountains, but if he wants to think about winning this race, Phil, he needs to try and stay in contact. Andrei Kashaykin there, you can see champion of Kazakhstan, looking over his shoulder, trying to figure out what has happened to my leader.
Well, the man just ahead of Vinokurov was Martin Perdiguero for the Phonak team. Remember, this team will be finished at the end of the year because of all the hoo-ha with the Tour de France and Phonak and the tentative disqualification of Floyd Landis from that race. The team is out and there's no replacement for them. This is De Luca now. Looks as though he's having a great day on the first big climb.
He's enjoying it, but look out, there's a Discovery rider in there that I actually don't know an awful lot about, that Janez Brakovic. He's a Slovenian rider. You have to say Johan Brunel is very clever at looking around the world and finding talent, and this man is at the front end of the serious first selection, Phil, of the Vuelta a España this year.
It wasn't the man I would have expected Discovery to be running at the front, but you're quite right, he is there. As Igor Anton, as the Euskaltel rider now, also moving in. And this is Mayo further down, concentrating, hoping he's not losing too much. Big test for him today, and he's not passing it, I'm afraid.
No, he certainly isn't. The man has got so much talent. I think he needs to have a psychologist look after him. And I think it's the pressure, Phil, of the hopes of the Basque country on his shoulders. It just makes him crack, and that really is rather sad because we've seen him ride so brilliantly on many occasions.
Very select little group there now as we look down the mountain. 2 riders up front. Here we are. This is still Jose Gomez Mochenti. Paulinho, I think, has done the ride of the race so far, Paul, because he's been out in that leading group since the inception.
He certainly has. He's a brilliant rider, but I don't think, in fact, it was Paulinho there. I think he's actually dropped back because that was Arroyo in that leading group, but it's not really much gap. You're looking here at about 100 metres advantage. Paulinho, I think, is a brilliant rider, and there's rumours starting to abound that he might be switching teams as well next year with the possibility of a move across to Discovery Channel. But everything at the moment is all rumour and innuendo. Nothing's quite official.
Interesting. Valverde here, setting the pace now, putting himself up as #1 favourite to win the Tour of Spain after his disappointing crash out of the Tour de France. Of the other favourites in this group, Sastre is off to the right. I don't think we call Brakovic a favourite, but he's certainly riding amongst them right now.
Well, he looks very comfortable there now, sitting in second position. A little bit further back, Tommy Danielson, not too far away, Manuel Beltran. The man who looks the coolest to me right now is the man in the lime green, the Liquigas rider, Danilo De Luca. He's riding up and down the group, and he's looking at the faces of the other riders in this group with him.
Well, he won't know it yet, but he's lost a teammate today, and I would say a valuable teammate in Charlie Wegelius, the British rider, because Wegelius has crashed and is out of the race, and that's really sad because Charlie is certainly not a quitter.
Well, that was tricky Beltran there. Just wasn't quite sure where he was, whether he was in the front or in the back, but this is certainly Jose Gomez Marchante. Now, this is a very nice move by this young man. Take note of that name, because I think in the next couple of seasons he is going to be a well-known bike rider.
Well, they've got one stage win with Ventoso, some hard work being done by Miller. Now we're seeing a man in the mountains. This could be a big team at the end of this year's tour here.
182, he's gone through there with a slight advantage. Just 16 seconds, though, over the Group Valverde. That is the Group Valverde we're looking at now at around about 4 kilometres to go. There are 2 riders in that group from Team Discovery Channel, and I think Tricky Beltran, Phil, may well be having a little bit of a bad day.
Still Sanchez just linking onto the back of the race here. The pace being set by Gomez Mochenti, who won his only 2 victories this year, came in the same event. It was the overall and the 5th stage time trial of the Tour de Pays Basque, which is also a Spanish race.
2:07, that's Paulinho at the back, so he has been picked up, but he is a talented rider, silver medalist from Athens. A little bit further up, you can see Andrei Kashaykin. And just having a look there.
Any sign
there's an acceleration coming here, and this looks as if this might be the move by... It isn't Carlos Sastre, because there he is, number 11, but it's certainly Team CSC trying to make it a little bit difficult for everybody.
Well, it'll be interesting. Sastre doesn't look to me... I don't think he's going that well. Yes, he's doing enough to hang on here. It looks as though Sanchez might be in a bit of trouble there as the elastic starting to stretch just that little bit. This is the leader, Gomez Marchante. 26 years of age now, and a couple of wins under his belt. He's always ridden well in the Vuelta, by the way. He finished 8th overall in 2004, so he's a good man for his home stage race.
Well, he had a good start to the season as well, because he won the Tour of the Basque Country, and that was because of his performance in the individual time trial, because he won the final stage time trial. He's a very talented athlete, not scared at all. This is the face of Carlos Sastre. That's Danilo De Luca in the lime green. And just in front of him, 2 riders from Team Discovery, 21 seconds the advantage. And the man I think who is going to look for the victory here is the man in second place there in the white jersey, because Alejandro Valverde has got the acceleration at the top of a climb like this. You remember how he disposed of a certain Lance Armstrong in the Pyrenees a couple of years ago?
I think that was Tommy Danielson, the Discovery rider in this group, Paul. Just caught a glimpse of his number.
Sammy Sanchez.
He's in trouble.
He does not like this pace at all. It's always very difficult your first day in the mountains, because the legs don't know how to respond, especially after this very hot start to the Vuelta a España that we've had. And looking again here.
That'll be Paulinho.
Yep.
He surely can't keep up now. He's had a great day in the mountains today, but he can't keep up. This pace is riding just fast tempo now. Just a process of elimination, a war of attrition.
Well, the team actually putting this man, I think, in the breakaway early on to possibly help Alexander Vinokourov, but Vinokourov is having a bad day because he is not in this first selection of top men. There you can see second place is Valverde. It is Tommy Danielson up there, and Tricky Beltran is the man missing. And Tricky Beltran, Phil, for me, was the man that Team Discovery should really have been looking for to try and win this race.
Well, Beltran was the last man to be given a contract on Discovery this year. And here he is amongst the leaders. Well, he's not now, he's dropped away. Vinokourov, we're hearing, Paul, is now 2 minutes behind the group.
That's unbelievable. This is a man that we expected to be a top contender, and he has seriously lost huge chunks of time. Sammy Sanchez, though, here in the orange jersey, won't give up. This is De Luca moving.
Wow, that's a nice little acceleration from Danilo De Luca. Very surprising rider, De Luca. He can be very good or very bad, and right now it looks like it's the former. As the mountain tilts up, he's trying to crack everybody, and I think he might have done it.
Oh, look at that acceleration. This is a man a couple of years ago we saw riding all over, of course, the Giro d'Italia. He was the winner of the inaugural Pro Tour, and now he's trying to get himself a stage victory. And somebody's coming across to him there, and it's in fact Carlos Sastre who has... No, it isn't. Sastre is still suffering here to stay with Kashakin, but somebody has gone across the gap there to join the man at the front there, Danilo De Luca.
This looks like a Discovery rider. It can only be Danielson or Brajkovic. This is Valverde who's come up alongside. It looks as though they've got nothing left in the legs to lift the pace. Sastre's really grimacing. It's hurting now. Kashakin, I don't reckon he wants to lift this pace up because he knows that Vinokourov now losing more than 2 minutes on his first date with the mountains. I think it must be Brajkovic up there.
Well, Kashakin is going to become the new leader now of Team Astana as we go forward. Just having a look there, it is Brajkovic. This you can see number 73 on the wheel there of Danilo De Luca. De Luca doesn't want to drag anybody to the finish. He's having a quick chat and said, come on work, there's a place at the front for you. That reminds me of the old story from Liverpool.
Do you like fish? There's a place at the front. Yes, I know that one. Well, here we have it now. Danilo De Luca. I don't think that Brunel will want him to overwork with this guy because Brunel's got other riders back there and he doesn't want the gaps to open too much. But it looks as though he may have discovered, excuse the pun there, a very good rider for the team.
Once again, very clever, talented team manager Johan Brunel, but look at the explosive fluidity there of Danilo De Luca. He really looked good today. It's a long time, actually, since we've seen Danilo De Luca ride quite this well. You remember in the Tour de France? Got blown away at the very start.
Well, De Luca is a very, very popular rider back home in Italy. In fact, he has a big international following too. He's a pretty popular guy, and when he's on form, he looks great. As he starts now to push on nicely, Danilo De Luca heading through, and he's pacing, in fact, the other man, Brajkovic, who's the big surprise at the moment.
Well, a little gear there that was being ticked over, of course, by Danilo De Luca. Valverde not finding too many friends here. Carlos Sastre just riding sensibly. He knows today's not the day that you're going to win the Vuelta a España, but you've got to make sure you consolidate. There is Gomez Marchante. He's been brought back into the fold. 3 leaders at the front as they're starting to pull the neutral service vehicle out, Phil. So that indicates to me that maybe Valverde is coming back.
You have to say, Paul, this is a horrible climb because it is still... Look at that road ahead now. Danilo De Luca, did he know this climb, or did he make that move too soon? Because that was a powerful... And here goes Gomez Marchante again. And then, where's he getting the legs from today?
Well, he's got guts. This is his race. This is the Tour of Spain. The Spanish all want to excel here. And Danilo De Luca, not happy, I think, by having this limpet mine stuck onto his back wheel called Brakovic. He will try, I think, and jump Brakovic if he can and get across to Gomez Marchante. But if he doesn't do it soon, this man is going to steal his thunder.
Well, he's on fire today. Looking way back now. We're right into the middle of Spain here. It's an absolute cauldron of heat. And the field has been blown apart. We're going to see huge time gaps when we get up to the top across the field.
Well, the gap's not huge. There is Gomez Marchante. We're looking at about 50 metres advantage. And De Luca, look at the way he's pedalling, looking very comfortable indeed. And behind, they're leaving all of the work up to Valverde, who about 3 kilometres ago was my tip for the win, because this is his kind of finish. He's an explosive rider. He mustn't panic, though. He's got to think about a 3-week bike race. Not today, not the victory on an individual stage, but just to make sure that he puts time between himself and all the other contenders for the overall win.
This is Kashikin. Well, this climb up here to the station at Esqui is turning out to be an absolute brute here. What a way to introduce the mountains into this year's Vuelta. And it's it's a Spanish rider rather, in Gomez Marchante here for Sonia Duval, who has taken the bull by the horns. You get some idea of the gradient there with the camera. And he's really giving this his best shot now. I don't think De Luca's done for yet, nor Brakovic. Although Brakovic, I don't think either is helping De Luca. He's not getting away. Is he getting away? No, very much not getting away. They're coming up on his shoulder.
Clawing his way back slowly but surely, not panicking at all. And now that you can see Gomez Marchante getting out of the saddle like this, he's just trying to keep this bike going forward. This is a horrendous climb. It's average for the last 4 or 5 kilometres, 10.5 to 12%.
Oh, grimace from De Luca here, but he's decided the best thing to do to get rid of him straight away, and he stamps on the pedals. Valverde's in trouble. I think it's Kashikin who's launched an attack at the front here. No reaction coming.
Valverde couldn't follow.
No, he could not, and he looks so good lower down the slopes. It is Andre.
Well, Kashikin now is going to take over the mantle of leadership of this team Astana, the team that represents the whole country of Kazakhstan, and he's trying to ride himself into a position now possibly to take the overall lead at the end of the day. There at 1 kilometre to go, you can see now, Phil, there are just 2 leaders, because Gomez Marchante has now given up the ghost and he's lost around about 5 or 10 bike lengths.
Well, Kashikin's having a good season. He's got 2 wins under his belt. Remember, he's part of the Lost Liberty Seguros team now. 3rd in the Tour of Germany, won the Road Race Championship back in June.
Well, both he and Alexander Vinokourov went down there, and I think Vinokourov tried to help him win that stage, that race, the Net Championships of Kazakhstan, as a payback for a lot of work that was done as a good team helper.
1K, and I would say that Valverde has dropped into the I've had enough category right now, as he gets behind Sastre, who himself has not had a good climb. Most unusual ascent today. Just who is a favourite for this race now? I wouldn't have talked about De Luca as being a favourite for a victory, but he's certainly favourite for the win here now. And look at this, Brakovic is going to have a go at him, and he's done no work on the climb, but he is only a youngster, and look at the face on De Luca.
Well, De Luca didn't like that at all, and he will actually chase him down with a little bit of anger in those pedals, because you don't really do that in the sport of professional cycling. Sit on a guy and then try and jump him at the finish. It's really a lack of respect. And De Luca now behind, there's still a big battle going on. This is Kashikin, who's gone past Gomez Marchante, so he will now climb up to 3rd place on the road.
And he might climb up to 3rd place in the race, because the way Danilo De Luca is riding, he could be the next golden jersey here. He's now up alongside. He puts the youngster back in his place. I wonder if he's saying, oh, we might well be saying something to him. He said, don't try that one again, pal.
Yeah, he's not happy about that at all. A little bit of the fiery Italian blood in him now at 500 metres to go, and he will not like to drag somebody up to the finish line and give them away the victory as at present. Valverde, well, today he's on the back foot, on the defensive with Carlos Sastre, and to me, Phil, that is a little bit of a surprise, because these 2 guys here are really serious pre-race favourites.
This is the face of Andre Kashikin, having a great season despite all his woes with the teams, and he's now getting up to them. That's a superb piece of riding, this. And he could well be going by them for the victory. Danilo De Luca's seen him coming. He looked over his shoulder. They're very close to the line now, and it's all the way uphill, and De Luca launches yet another attack. He doesn't want to let Andre Kashikin onto his back wheel. At 200 metres to go, he can't afford to let him onto his back wheel.
Well, Danny De Luca winding it up. Brakovic just trying to stay on the wheel, and I think there's not very much left in the engine room there. there for Kashakin, but look at Danilo De Luca explode.
Yeah, he hit him at the right time. He couldn't quite close the gap, but if he hadn't looked over his shoulder when he did, Kashakin would have won this stage, but it's all too late now. And that's a great ride by Brakovic. He's only a young man, but the win goes to Danilo De Luca, and that will give him the race lead for sure as well. Remember that he's also worn the pink jersey in the Giro on 5 occasions as well.
Gomez Marchante coming in 13 seconds adrift for 4th place, and here I think is Alejandro Valverde and Carlos Sastre. Well, they didn't lose too much time on the day, 21 seconds. That'll still keep them up at the top end of the overall classification, but Phil, it's going to be a very different overall classification tonight.
Well, I don't know how many riders we're going to see come in here, but they are going to be spread. This is Ruggiero Marzoli of Lampre. He's coming in, and just behind there is a bit of a battle, but it looks like Samuel Sanchez has got the better there of Manuel Beltran.
And there's Tommy
what
D.
happened? Oh, there he is. I was going to say what happened to Tommy Danielson, but he must have dropped back there to Beltran on that last couple of metres ago.
Pretty good ride by Danielson, lost himself about 40-odd seconds. He's come across the line in 11th place.
Familiar figure here of Leonardo Pupilli.
Great bike rider, very good climber. Weighs in, by the way, at around about 48 kilos, and that's when he's wet.
Nothing of him. 12th place for him, and a clock just over a minute has passed by. Just over a minute to the 12th man, and of course there's no sign of the race favourites as we've seen. And what's happened to Vinokurov? What happened to the man who won by default last year, Denny Menchov? Never saw him.
Well, Denny Menchov, a bit of a surprise actually. I hadn't seen him anywhere. We've not even talked about Denny Menchov, and I have a funny feeling that he's
not going to win this year.
Nope.
And he didn't win last year, of course. It was only on the disqualification of Roberto Heras that gave him the victory. Rather a sad way to win any race. But there's the face of Danilo De Luca. Well, he may look tired, he has a right to be, but deep down he'll be very, very pleased with that performance today.
Esteban Mayo coming in, he's lost himself again. Any chance of winning this race overall? 1 minute and 43 seconds in the bag.
Yeah, that's a long way. We're heading towards the 2-minute mark now. That was David Arroyo. Great ride by him today. Here's a look at the finish again. Danilo De Luca wasn't going to allow Kashakin up here. He made his run perhaps a little bit earlier than he wanted to, but it worked. And Brakovic, any chance of stealing the glory, that was put in the can for another day.
Yeah, but he didn't put a gap between himself and Brakovic. Danilo De Luca, really, that man is a serious danger for the future, and we don't really know very much about him.
But he was quite well up, of course, with Discovery in the opening time trial. He's not lost much time since, so he's going to have to watch out here. I think the lead will go to De Luca, but we'll wait and see. Here's the result anyway. De Luca getting in, same time as you say, with Brakovic. I think there should have been a second difference myself. Kashakin 3rd, Gomez Marchante 4th, and Sastre 5th. Sastre, I would say, best of the pre-race favourites, just ahead of Valverde, another pre-race favourite. I think we can talk about Sammy Sanchez as being a likely winner as well, because he rides pretty well in this race.
And Tricky Beltran is a man not to discount as we go into the harder climbs down towards the end, but the man of the moment here, certainly from Italy, Danilo De Luca, getting a well-earned victory, and of course he's got enough time to get himself the overall win by a mere 4 seconds from Brakovic, so Brakovic is a man we need to look out over the next couple of days for.
There's the overall confirmed, 4 seconds only ahead of Brakovic. De Luca gets the next golden jersey, takes it off Hushoft after the wearing it for 3 days. And Valverde, by the way, did finish, but he lost over 2 minutes. And they're saying that Robbie McEwen is in a group at the back, all eliminated today.
Yeah, I think you meant Vinokurov was losing 2 minutes.
Sorry, I did, yes. Thank you.